Hi, everyone. Gabby here, owner and clinical director of Recovered and Restored Eating Disorder Therapy Center. I am here today with our amazing athlete specialist and licensed professional counselor, Hannah DeGroot. She is going to be talking with us about eating disorders and recovery and what was formerly known as the female athlete triad, now referred to as REDS. Hannah, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. So we're going to jump in. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what you do at Recovered and Restored and kind of the population you love working with, and we'll go from there.
I am a licensed professional counselor at Recovered and Restored. I work primarily with teens and young adults. I love working with athletes. I love I love everyone, but I love working with athletes who are specifically highly motivated, high achieving people. I'm also a 200-hour yoga teacher and sometimes use yoga in therapy or sometimes offer group classes at Recovered and Restored. Yeah, that's it about me.
Awesome. So tell me, what is REDS? This is like a new concept in the field. So tell us more.
So REDS is an acronym for Relative Energy Deficiency in Sports.
Okay.
It happens when athletes don't get enough energy or food to support their expenditure
Mhm.
in exercise and in their daily lives. Um, so basically, low energy availability or not enough food intake, which in athletes with vaginas or female presenting athletes
Mhm.
results in loss of your period.
Mhm.
And in all athletes can lead to low bone mineral density, which then will lead to injuries.
Mhm.
Gabby, I know you mentioned the female athlete triad, which is a subset of REDS, meaning REDS is all athletes of all presenting genders,
Mhm.
whereas the female athlete triad is just um, can only be diagnosed to women.
Got it. That makes sense. Now, how did they come about this kind of new classification, do you think?
I think it's been around for a long time, but as research emerges and people are more vocal about their mental health struggles, it's easier to connect the dots. Um, I mean, for as long as we've had sports, people have been not eating enough and having injuries,
Yeah.
and female athletes have been losing their periods. But now that we have more research and people are more willing to speak up about their challenges, I think it's easier to connect the dots.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm glad people are speaking up. This is important. Mental health is health. Would you say the main difference between REDS and the female athlete triads is just that the female athlete triad is specific to those presenting as a female gender?
Perfect. Yep, exactly that. So REDS is can happen to anyone,
Mhm.
whether men or women. Um, and REDS is specific to people who get periods.
Got it. That makes sense. Um, so who is at risk? What are the symptoms? Tell us all the things.
So REDS occurs most commonly in athletes,
Okay.
but it can really happen with anyone. Um, Sports that emphasize specific body types or do weigh-ins, whether it's like wrestling, gymnastics, dance, um, see higher rates of REDS
Mhm.
as well as endurance athletes, but
Mhm.
it can happen in any athlete or really in any person.
Mhm.
Symptoms look like fatigue, rapid weight loss, delayed or missed periods. In men, it can look like really low libido. It can be like hair loss, trouble
Mhm.
focusing, depression, irritability, a lot of the same symptoms that we see in eating disorders.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so how can this impact performance? Probably in a lot of ways.
Yeah, totally. So, like I said before, REDS increases the risk of injury because it decreases your bone mineral density, which means your bones are more brittle and more likely to break. So, obviously, if you are getting injured really frequently, you can't train to your best and then you can't perform.
Mm.
Um, So it's really common when athletes start to go through weight loss that they might see performance, like they might get better,
Mhm.
they might improve, but this is usually really short term because you can only like live at this. It's just not a sustainable lifestyle, like we always say.
Yeah.
Um, Reds decreases muscle mass. It decreases your endurance, higher risk for injury,
Mhm.
um, hurts your concentration, decreases your coordination, and also just impairs your judgment.
Yeah. So all the things you need as an athlete kind of get taken
Yeah,
away when this presents.
exactly. Totally. There's kind of no long term benefits.
Right.
There are no long term benefits, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, one thing you mentioned was the bone density. That can also eventually lead to osteoporosis, right?
Yes. Yes. So that's part of, I know I was saying it can happen in anyone.
Hmm.
Reds is also really common in women of all ages, but especially as women get older and
Hmm.
their bone density decreases, it can lead to osteoporosis, exactly like you said.
Yeah, which nobody wants that.
No.
No.
It's tough to recover from.
Yeah.
Um, like bone density can be repaired and restored, but it takes time. And it's obviously a mentally and physically draining process.
Totally. Totally. Which leads me to my next question. Can you recover? And what does that look like? Because it sounds like this impacts a lot of probably different areas of their life, not even just athletics.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Recovery is 100% possible. Like
Yay.
we always say, it just needs to be a priority.
Mhm.
Um, Rest is super important, as well as prioritizing meals to replenish
Mhm.
depleted energy stores,
Mhm.
which for people with eating disorders, this can be a long and hard process. Um, I would absolutely recommend meeting with a dietitian and a therapist who can help navigate this process. For people who get periods, it can take months or even years to get your period back. And like I said, it can take a while to regain bone density. So it's really just important to prioritize your recovery, but 100% recovery is possible.
That's awesome. That's so encouraging. I think that's something too that we do see kind of across the board with eating disorders. It can take a really long time to recover, but like you can recover.
100%.
Yeah. You had mentioned also that the sports where kind of weight is constantly a factor tend to be at higher risk. What can we say to those athletes who are kind of under that pressure?
That's a tough question. I believe that in order to prevent REDS and really prioritize athletes' mental health, a cultural shift needs to take place. And coaches, parents, athletes, teammates, anyone involved in sports needs to prioritize an athlete's health, mental and physical, above all else, including performance. Because while it's possible to recover from REDS or an eating disorder, they are long, draining processes that can be avoidable sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, so, like I was saying, a cultural shift needs to take place. Athletes need to feel supported by their coaches and their teammates. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually saw this like video this morning and it was Shawn Johnson who was sharing about after she had gotten the gold medal. And they go into this thing called the corral, which is just like a bunch of reporters. And the very first reporter she met with said, "How did it feel to lose?" And she paused and was thinking, "I just won a silver medal in the Olympics. And you're asking me what it felt like to lose?"
Yeah, that's such a stupid question.
Right, right. And I think what she was trying to say kind of aligns with what you're saying about how there needs to be a mental shift, right? Like that's a huge accomplishment. Only a
Totally.
very slim amount of people will make it to the Olympics, let alone
Win a medal.
participate and medal
Yeah,
in the Olympics. Like what? So yeah, definitely something needs to change with our culture. Something, needs to shift, and making health and mental health a priority of everyone, not excluding athletes for the sake of their sport.
Totally. Totally.
Um, how can REDS be prevented? We know we can recover from it, but prevention is probably so much more powerful. And it kind of leads into what we were just saying.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I was just saying, a cultural shift needs to take place. Coaches, parents, everyone must prioritize an athlete's health, mental and physical, above all else, including performance.
Yeah.
That would require eliminating a toxic training environment, safe standards for monitoring health, and increased awareness about how these practices impact athletes. I've
Yeah.
heard so many horrible stories about coaches like publicly weighing their athletes, shaming certain body types. Um, all of these behaviors, while they're common and in some sports are even a rite of passage, are just completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
On an individual level, athletes need to meet their requirements for their energy, have food freedom, honor their rest, meet with dietitians and therapists and support teams that have their best interest in mind.
Yeah, totally. I think too, like you said, educating. Like I think as you like rite of passage, there are so many things that, oftentimes we say, well, that's just how it is. But like, no, like if it's harmful, we don't need to keep doing it.
It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. And we know as therapists that shaming people into whether it's changing their body size or performing better doesn't work. Like shame is not a motivator, despite what everyone wants to say that it is. But,
Totally.
shaming your athletes or openly weighing your athletes at all really is just unhelpful. So I think a lot of education needs to be done in that world. Would you agree?
100%. Education and compassion,
Yeah.
where we need to like have compassion for our athletes and our peers,
Yeah.
people. But I think in the sports world, there's a belief that in order to be best at your sport, you have to be really gritty and really tough,
Mhm.
which is true to some degree, but we're all human and we can be both gritty and tough and also someone who needs compassion and love and support.
Yes.
And athletes need both from coaches.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And like nothing is worth your mental health
100%.
or physical health, because this really ties into both.
Yes, this is like a total example of how mental health impacts your physical health.
Yeah. So what would you say to the athlete who might be struggling right now? How could you inspire them, or to the coach, maybe to both? What would you say to the athlete and what would you say to the coach who might be struggling right now?
I would say you're not alone and reach out for help.
Yeah.
We're taking new clients. No, I would say, I mean, yeah, but I would also say REDS is super, super common, as well as just mental health struggles in athletes in general.
Yeah.
Thankfully, resources are becoming more readily available as people are more vocal about their struggles.
Mhm.
And there's no shame in getting help. The same way that if you're an athlete and you need help with like a skill that you're trying to master or you're trying to improve, you ask for help. The same thing is possible with your mental health.
Yep, totally. So yeah, as Hannah said, we are taking new clients. Hannah would love to work with you. She is, like I said, our athlete specialist. Or if you were just struggling in general and you're watching this, please reach out for help. We would be so honored to work with you. If you guys want to learn more about this or anything at all, reach out to us at recoveredandrestoredtherapy.com. Also, please note this is not a supplement for therapy. This is just meant to help you or assist you in your healing in any way. And again, reach out. We'd love to talk with you. Bye, guys.